Hi, and welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got a good show for you lined up. We're going to talk a little NHL. The season started last week, so we're going to bring on our special guest in a little bit, Andrew Dunn. Andrew Dunn of Sports Centered Podcast knows a lot about the NHL, a lot more than I do. So we're going to get Andrew's picks on the conference champions, who he likes for Stanley Cup contenders this year. And also, he's going to pick the MVP race, who he likes in the MVP race. Also, later on today, during tonight's show, we're going to give you the results of the best sports movies. That'll be coming on the Sports Wrap at the end of the show. It will let you know which movie is moving on to the second round. And of course, we do have Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. He is back this week, so we'll get Benny's picks on college and pro football. But right now, let's talk NHL, and let's bring him on, Andrew Dunn of Sports Centered Podcast. Andrew.
Hey, Liz, I appreciate you having me.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you making time for me. I know you're an hour early in Tennessee, so thanks for this coming on. So let's jump right into it. I know you're a big hockey guy. I know you have connections with the Predators, but let's get into the Eastern Conference of the NHL and kind of go over your picks, starting with the Metropolitan Division. If we can run that up, and we can kind of go through that real quick, and who you like in the Metropolitan Division and maybe why. Just a couple sentences as to why you like these teams.
Yeah, for sure. So, Carolina feels like an obvious pick. I know a lot of people are taking them to even win the whole thing this year. Mm-hmm. They've been a solid team for the past couple of seasons, even making it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I like their team, honestly. They just look at the same core group of guys together with Nate Chiz, Jordan Staal, Sebastian Aho, Teravainen. Goaltending has always been kind of a question for them, but honestly, this season I feel like they figure it out. And I think they get over the hump this year, honestly, and we'll take over the Metropolitan just like they did last season. Rangers, I feel like I can never really bet against the Rangers, even if they're having kind of a not great start. They still have a solid team, huge buyers this offseason, not much cap space, but they're in it to win it this year. So I'm never counting them out, especially with their goalie. You can't count them out.
Quick question: is Patrick Kane still playing with the Rangers right now?
He is not.
Okay, is he even in the NHL anymore?
He's a free agent.
Okay.
But a lot of teams are kind of questionable because he's injured and has to be out for at least a couple months. So
because I remember the Rangers had picked him up near the end of last year during the playoff race, and I don't know, it didn't really work out too well with the Rangers, that pick. But and I know you like the Devils for last, and I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking the Devils are going to make a jump this year. I think Jack Hughes, really came of age last year, and he's got his brother up there, Luke Hughes, playing defense. Again, questionable goaltending with the Devils, but they have a lot of firepower on that team.
They do. Their team is the quality again. A lot of young talent, especially they even signed Jesper Bratt to a huge contract. He's a solid player, but I feel like sometimes people forget about him. He's on the team and is at least like a 50-point scorer every season consistently. And now with Luke Hughes on defense, Dougie Hamilton, and their defense is looking better. I think I agree with you. I think they get over the hump and might go farther in the playoffs they did last year. Jack Hughes had a breakout season last season. I think he repeats it again this year. But just kind of like Carolina, the goaltending, Vanacek, their starting goalie, okay last year, but they're gonna need some more help there if they want to.
Well, I know last year, and we'll jump onto the Atlantic in a second, but I know last year, which really killed Carolina, is going into the playoffs, they lost their best scorer, right? Their top point producer last year, and that kills the team going into the playoffs.
No, it's brutal. Yeah, it's hard to recover from that because you kind of just have to change up your whole strategy, your whole game plan going into these games. Now you can't rely on that person to lead the team or carry you when you need a goal with like 5 minutes left in the third period. You don't have that person you just pull on the ice and kind of change the game. It hurts.
All right, so we got the Metropolitan, we got Carolina, the Rangers, and the Devils. Now let's look towards the Atlantic, and our crack producer Tony pulls. Look at these graphics. Really, I mean, we even have your emblem for Sports Center Podcast at the top left. Is that not amazing?
No, that's insane. Those guys, it looks so sick.
Tony's got it working. Tony's got it working tonight.
Shout out to him.
So Atlantic, we like. You've got the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are off disappointed, but you think they're going to break through this year. The Tampa Bay Lightning, who their window might be closing a little bit. Some of their guys getting a little old. And the Bruins, and we can talk about the Bruins' epic collapse of last year, but reasons why you like Toronto, Tampa, and Boston in the Atlantic.
I feel like with Toronto, it's always tough. Every season, they always look like a solid, like really good team that I think is going far, going to the final even. And it's always a first round exit. I feel like it's a meme now that they can't get by the first round. And last year they finally do, and they get swept in the second round. So it's been tough for them. But
expectations seem to weigh on them. And now you're from now I know you lived a lot in that area, right? You lived outside of Toronto. And maybe explain to some of the people out there what the expectations are for Toronto and how it like dominates the sports news that Toronto Maple Leafs do.
Oh, it's huge, especially ever since they got Austin Matthews. It's been nothing but the Maple Leafs obviously for the coverage there. And every year it feels like it's Stanley Cup or nothing. And so now that it's been almost like 4 seasons of straight like first round exits or getting swept in the second round, it hurt. And obviously they got rid of their GM last season after that. And everybody goes into the season expecting Stanley Cup. So when that doesn't happen, it starts to take a toll, honestly.
Well, Matthews is off to an amazing start. He had back-to-back games with hat tricks, and I think he scored last night. So he's tied for the league lead with 7 goals through 1 week of the season. So he's off to a flying start.
He is. Yeah, Austin Matthews is going crazy so far this season. He's an insane player, and I see him play, and I'm like, maybe. I always get my hopes up beginning of the season. I'm like, oh, they look really good this year. They might have a chance.
So let's see what they do. It always seems to me when it comes to Toronto, come playoff time, they always have the firepower, but for some unknown reason, the goaltending just lets them down. I mean, I remember them playing the Bruins in multiple Game 7s, and the goaltending was just not good. Whoever they put in there, it wasn't working. So you like Toronto. Now, you like the Tampa Bay Lightning. Is this maybe the last time, maybe this season, they make a run at the Cup, do you think, with this current team?
I think so. I think, honestly, I agree. I think this is their last chance. I know Stamkos' his contract's expiring. They're still at standstill. And honestly, their team is getting older. And they still got an elite goaltender who was out for the first half of the year. But I think this year, they still got Braden Point, a solid player, probably their best player at the time right now. They still got Hedman on defense. And, when Vasilevsky comes back, they're still, I feel like, easily playoff caliber team.
And Kucherov is still on the roster, right?
Yeah, Kucherov obviously is insane, I think. But honestly, I agree. I think after this season, you could tell a little bit last season. There wasn't the same team that won the Cup. They were starting to fall off a little bit. I think they still got one more run left in them. But I think after this season, I think it might be time to, start focusing on the future a little bit.
I agree. Reload after this year, and depending on what they do. And now then, number 3, the team right behind me there. We got the greatest hockey player in the history of hockey. By the way, just to let people know, we are having a live chat tonight. I forgot to let everyone know at the very beginning of this. So our amazing chat girl, Joni, is standing by. So anybody listening to this podcast right now live can, at the end of this segment, if you have questions about the NHL, questions about your specific team that you love out there or a player, please, throw it out in the chat. Joni will read it to Andrew. We'll get Andrew's answers on that as well. And actually, Benny the Book's going to join us at the very end of this segment, too, to give his take on the betting favorites, who he likes to win the NHL. So we go to the Boston Bruins, Andrew. That's my team, your dad's team, right? So did the Bruins rebound after that disastrous playoff defeat last year to the Panthers? Do they rebound?
Honestly, going into the season, I thought they were going to be terrible. So I was like, after that loss, they lose Bergeron and Krejci. Their team's getting older, obviously, but they bring in Lucic, so that kind of shocked me a little bit.
I know, that's a head scratcher, right? The guy's like 35 years old and he's not even what he was back in 2011 when he won a cup with the Bruins, right? He's definitely on the back end of his career.
Right. Yeah, he's wrapping up. He's solely out there as an enforcer. You are not counting on that guy to get you points or goals every night. But I'm shocked. They so far have played a lot better than I thought. Obviously, their goaltending is insanely good. They also, Pasternak's having a good year so far. They have a rookie, Matthew. I don't know how to say that.
Is it Poitras?
I've been saying Poitras, but
Is
I've
it
heard it's pronounced
Poitras?
Poitras.
He's definitely French, right? Oh no, I don't think he
Yeah.
is. I think he's from. I read about him. I know he's got French background, but I think he's from the United States actually. And he's 19 years old, and I think he's now got 3 goals in his last 2 games. 19-year-old kid, like I said, and the Bruins love him. The Bruins brass really likes him. He's got speed, and they moved him up a line too, so he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, I would think, right?
I think so. As of right now, I think he has to be. He's performing really well, and someone they're going in the season I haven't even heard of, and now all of a sudden, he's kind of come on the scene, and he's really popping off in these first couple of games.
And the Bruins off to an amazing 6-0 start. If they win, I think they're playing tomorrow night at home against the Ducks. If they beat the Ducks, that's the best start in franchise history at 7-0. So I like the picks. I do like the picks, and I think Toronto eventually, they got so much offensive firepower on that team. We didn't even mention Jonathan Tavares, who's just been a stud since he was drafted, number 1 by the Islanders. So I like those picks. And in the wild card, a couple of young teams, up-and-comers, right? You like the Buffalo Sabres, who, were on the cusp of the playoffs last year. Tage Thompson, I think, had 50 goals last year, or close to 50 goals last year. And the Detroit Red Wings, who have got a lot of young talent. Dylan Larkin, I know a player that the Bruins tried to get last year at the deadline. He's their veteran. He's 26 years old. So I think Buffalo and Detroit could make some noise as wild card contenders.
Yeah, I'm honestly, those 2 teams are really exciting to watch because they're so young. I kind of like Buffalo, mostly because Tage Thompson had a breakout season last year. Rookie goalie they have, Levi, who's so far had a good start to his career, ended the last season, played at the end when they had already been eliminated, and he was pretty good. And then they even got Dylan Cousins, and their defense is honestly really insane. Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, they got a quality team that I think is close to coming over that hump, and they got some offensive firepower. So I could definitely see them making the wild card this year. They were so close last season. So,
and the Red Wings kind of the same. You think they'll ride some of the youth movement and make a jump this year?
I think so. I think they had such a great start to the season. I think now they got a good core group for this team, and this chemistry is building. They're young, but they have that explosive firepower, and I think just based even on the start of the season, they're definitely a playoff caliber team.
All right, so we discussed the NHL Eastern Conference. Let's jump to the Western Conference right now, and let's bring up the Central Division. And obviously, everyone always takes Colorado every year. They got Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, who's the closest thing I've ever seen to Bobby or skating ability-wise. You've got Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. Cannot argue with any of those picks. Do you like Colorado to run away with this division, or do you think it'll be close?
I think it's going to be really close. I think Colorado will win. You can remember, like you said, can't count them out with their team. But I think it's going to be a lot closer. Dallas has an insanely good team this season. I think it would be maybe like 1 or 2 points separating 1 and 2 in that division, obviously.
And in Minnesota, they're a team that's every year they're tough to play at home. They're a tough team at home. They're really good, and they're doing pretty well. And I like that pick too. I think Minnesota and Dallas could flip flop, but so we like Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. Now let's talk about the Pacific Division, and you've got the defending champs. You got the defending champs out there, and that's the Golden Knights, who are off to a ridiculously fast start. They're 7-0 right now. I mean, this is the best start by any defending Stanley Cup champion team. And you know what I like about them, Andrew? Maybe you can talk about the fact that they don't really have, I mean, Jack Eichel plays for them, but I think he led the team with like 60-odd points last year. But they're so balanced. So it's not like you shut down one line and you shut them down. They run 3 lines that can score, right? And they get solid goaltending. And Cassidy did an amazing job his first year behind the bench.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're, like you said, they're so good because they have so much depth on that team. They might not have like a breakout star. They do have Mark Stone and Jack Eichel, who will probably be their leading scorer at the end of the season. But it's a team effort, and they really, each line that goes out there has, in my opinion, almost an equal chance of kind of producing for them, which is so hopeful. And then, honestly, even this offseason, they lost only 1 player from that Stanley Cup run, which was Riley Smith to Pittsburgh. So they really kept a lot of those core guys still together, and they had a goalie who broke out in the playoffs, Aiden Hill, who, really surprised people, and he played extremely well. So I think, honestly, I even have them going back to the Cup again this season.
It's interesting. We had somebody on earlier, and they predicted Carolina against the Vegas Golden Knights for the Cup Finals, and you guys are right in line there. Edmonton off to a kind of a slow start, and Connor McDavid, we'll talk about him in the upcoming conversation with MVP. He got hurt in the second game. He's out 1 to 2 weeks, but man, they're off to a slow start, as are the Kings. And I like both picks, and it's a long season, but they are off to slow starts.
They are. And I feel bad because it seems like it's the same playoff teams from last season. But Edmonton, I know McDavid's hurt right now, but they have these slumps throughout the season where sometimes they'll go on just skate. They're losing like 5 or 6 in a row, and they honestly don't look good at all because they used to be their first line with McDavid and Draisaitl. It would just fall off so much. The depth, they just wasn't there. Their defense was shaky. Their goaltending has always been an issue for them, even though Jack Campbell this year is kind of playing better than he did last season.
Now are they splitting? I know Skinner's also the goalie. He was a rookie. And are they splitting that, or is Campbell taking over the number 1 goaltending spot?
It seems like they're splitting it right now. Now, it could be a fight later in the season. Like Campbell could take over. But I think right now, especially with Skinner playing so well last season as a rookie, they're splitting right now.
And the Kings, I know that, they still, Anze Kopitar, the guy is still playing at a high level. I mean, the guy's been around for a long time. Probably the second best defensive center in the game the last 10 years next to Patrice Bergeron, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's solid. He's even been nominated for the Selke as well. He's a quality player. And at like 36, 37 years old and still producing and being a leader for that team, he's huge for that team, obviously.
So you think Vegas runs away with the Pacific? I mean, pretty much.
I do, honestly.
Okay.
I honestly feel like the Pacific, in my opinion, is the weakest division in the NHL, and I think Vegas is going to run away with it. LA, I put at 3 just because I looked at other teams. I really didn't think that they would have that many points. So I think, like you said, I think Vegas is going to run away pretty easily.
Okay. And wild card, we're going to jump into the MVP, but I just want to quickly mention, you like the Calgary Flames. They had a coaching change, obviously, last year. Darryl Sutter out. And Nashville Predators, obviously, I know you have a connection with the Preds, but, they're off to a little bit of a difficult start as well this year, but you like them for the wild card. Now, I want to talk MVP race, and for that, I want to bring in the third member right now. We want to bring in our resident Benny the Book, the King of Carolina. We know Benny knows a lot about a lot of different sports. It's not just football that we're focused on, but Benny loves hockey. And I want to get both of your takes on the MVP race. I'll give Benny Andrew's MVPs, and Benny can kind of respond and let me know what he thinks from a betting standpoint. And where is he? There he is.
Hey, Les, good to be back.
All right,
good to be back.
The book. After 2 weeks of being gone, we got him back.
Yeah. I was a little hiatus there.
So
some good, some bad. Some good, some bad.
Some good and some bad. But so we're going to talk bring up the MVP race real quick. We're going to get Andrew's picks for the MVP, and Benny, maybe you could look at this graphic. Look at this. Is this not awesome? This is fantastic. Tony has outdone himself, our producer. Tony the Tiger Smeraldi, I've named him, has outdone himself here. Outstanding job. Andrew, let's go through the picks. Let's go through 1 through 5, and then we'll get Benny's take on who we think is going to win this thing.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't really count out Connor McDavid. I feel like it seems like a cop-out answer, but every year he's in the contention for it. He's honestly the most dominant player, I feel like, right now in the NHL. He might be injured for 1 or 2 weeks, but after last season, almost getting 150 points, he's the leader of that team, and he produces so much at Edmonton because he's honestly outside of Draisaitl and maybe Evander Kane on a good night. Zach Hyman's there, but McDavid's pretty much getting the overwhelming majority of their points is when he's on the ice. Okay, so McDavid
overwhelming number 1. Austin Matthews off to a hot start. Like I said, 7 goals. The guy's a goal-scoring machine. His plus-minus isn't exactly the greatest. He doesn't play a great defensive game, but he's not getting paid to play defensive forward. He's getting paid to put the puck in the net, right? So you like him, number 2. Draisaitl, that's the running mate, obviously, of McDavid's, is number 3. And the last 2 guys, you got the American Jack Hughes and David Pastrnak. Do you think they got an outside chance of it reproducing great seasons from last year?
I do. I think Jack Hughes is going to have another breakout season like he did last year. And I think just because he is the star player on that team, in my opinion, I know Nico Hischier is there, but Jack Hughes is got to be their go-to. And I think if New Jersey does well enough, Jack Hughes will be in the running for MVP because he's the leader of that team.
And Pasternak, I was wondering, going, wow, he doesn't have a center. Krejci's gone. He got moved down. They broke up that line in Boston. I forget what the line was called with Bergeron, Marchand, and in Pasternak. What was it called? They had a nickname for the line.
The perfection line.
Wasn't it the Killer Bees?
No, the production line. I think it was the production line.
The production line?
I think it was the perfection.
The perfection line. The perfection line. And they moved him off that. And now they don't have anybody feeding him the puck, but he's off to a pretty good start with 3 goals. Now, Benny, you're looking at this list here of 5 players. If you're a betting guy right now, what are your odds, and who do you think is the odds-on thing to win this thing?
The overall major favorite is McDavid. I mean, the guy is simply amazing. I mean, what he did last year, they haven't seen that in hockey in a long, long time since Gretzky, Right. And what's most amazing about it is that he has Draisaitl, who is really good too. I mean, they got some 1-2 punch. It's hard to imagine that they can't go further than they usually do. And he's definitely the best player in the NHL. I like Jack Hughes. I think Andrew's right. He's everybody talks about him, the step that he's made up from first year to second year, and he wants to be the star. He's that type of guy. There's some guys that don't want to be the star. He knows he's got to play good in order for the Devils to do good, and he's accepting that role. So I think that McDavid won. I would Austin Matthews, he's a scoring machine. So I mean, maybe him 2 and Hughes 3.
Well, let me ask you a question.
If you want to make a nice piece of change, you bet on Hughes. You're not going to get much with McDavid.
Right. I know he's the overall favorite. Now, Andrew, real quick, let me ask you this, because I know we're running low on time, and I want to, if we have any questions in the chat to ask you, I want to get to that. But maybe any surprises that you see that are not on this list, like does a Sidney Crosby, he's a veteran. The guy's been around a long time. A Malkin, does somebody come out of the pack that really is not here that makes a run at the MVP this year, do you think?
Honestly, I mean, a little bit biased because I'm a huge Penguins fan, and so Crosby's my favorite player. So I want to say him. Okay. But my pick, if it was outside of the list, I really think Tage Thompson has a chance.
Who's that?
Tage Thompson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For Buffalo. Yeah, I think he's a dark horse contender. Almost 50 goals last year. Kind of a slow start for him, but I think since I really think Buffalo's going to get over that hump this year, I think Tage Thompson's maybe a guy behind it. So I think he might be someone that a lot of people are thinking about, but I think he's a dark horse for that.
I mean, the kid's what's he, like 6'6", 6'7"? He's huge.
He's huge.
What about Colorado's defenseman?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about Cale Makar because he's a shoo-in to win the Norris Trophy as the league's best defenseman. But you're right.
And his McKinnon is unbelievable.
He is.
I mean, 2 years ago, I watched that guy. It looked like he was in a different speed zone. I mean, he'd fly by everybody. But those are 2 guys that you'd have to put in the conversation there.
Well, Andrew, let me ask you this. Obviously, we all know McDavid's a dynamic player, right? Incredible skater from point A to point B. I don't think anybody gets there quicker, right, at full speed. But McKinnon's pretty close, and Makar, they're both tremendous skaters, are they not? I mean, they're both unbelievable players.
Oh, they're crazy good. I remember when I go to the Colorado games here in Nashville and just seeing McKinnon or even Makar just skate, it is insane how fast they are, just acceleration-wise. Quick cuts, they're incredible skaters, and yeah, I would never count them out for something like that because they produce night in, night out. I always think going into the season, Makar is a shoo-in for the Norris because he's honestly the best defenseman in the league, in my opinion.
I love Makar, love his game. Now let's just check and see. Do we have any questions? Oh, we don't have any questions. No questions. Okay, well, we do have an open chat, so if anybody wanted to ask, we do. Before we let Andrew go, first of all, we want to thank you again for taking time out to join us here to talk NHL. I want to get your prediction for who's going to make it to the Cup and who's ultimately going to win it.
I gotta go. Honestly, I'm gonna go Vegas, Toronto. It might sound shocking.
Whoa,
but
the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in them this year. I got them going, but ultimate winner, I gotta go Vegas. I back to back. The team just looks too good right now. They did it last season, kept the same solid group, good goaltending, production, good coach.
Now, here's an interesting fact, right? That people obviously who know hockey know this, but the Boston Bruins jettison Bruce Cassidy as the coach, right? They bring in Montgomery last year, who, I mean, how can you argue? He had an amazing regular season. But how ironic that Cassidy coaches the Vegas Knights to a Stanley Cup in his first season. Incredible. Oh, we have 3 questions. Oh, we have 3 questions for you. Are you ready to take 3 questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Joni, our amazing chat girl, question number 1 for Andrew Dunn.
Okay, first of all, I want to say the audience is really loving Andrew Dunn. He's doing a bang-up job. So,
boy, look at this, Andrew. Look at, you got your own sharing section.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so the first question is from Liz. What about Bedard for MVP?
I mean, honestly, I think he might be a runaway for Rookie of the Year for the Calder. But for MVP, I really don't think so, just because Chicago, in my opinion, they're terrible. So even with him, but that team's not going to do much. He doesn't have a ton of help. He's got Taylor Hall, who's out right now. I think Bedard will score, I honestly think, over 50, 60 points this season.
Wow.
Easy Calder Trophy winner.
I agree. I think he wins the Calder. I think who's the kid with Columbus? The kid they got out of Michigan, their second pick, Fantilli. You know something? I think I'm not going to say a bust, but I think he's not going to have the greatest rookie year. I think the kid you brought up from the Bruins, he could shock a lot of people.
He could, yeah. I think he will be in the running, and I think Logan Cooley from Arizona might also be in the running because he's off to a hard start as well.
All right. So that was question number 1. Okay. Thank you, Liz, out there. Now, question number 2 from Joni, the chat girl. What do we got for Andrew?
Okay. Rob asks, any thoughts on the local Nashville team?
Yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. I'm kidding. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, honestly, I agree. They're so young. They're clearly in a rebuilding phase. They traded away Duchesne, Johansson at the end of last season. They brought in Luke Shen, which kind of surprised me. He's 35 and played on 15 different NHL teams, it feels like. But I think they've had a surprising start. I don't count them out because their goalie is one of my favorite players. He's outstanding. UC Saros is insanely good. He plays about 70 games a year, it feels like. So. And they've often okay start. I feel like exceed expectations than what I have for them. So they're definitely in a rebuilding phase though. So it'll be some time before they're back to like Colorado level.
All right. So thank you so much, Rob. And we've got the last question for Andrew.
Okay. Actually, the last question is for Benny.
Oh, it's for Benny.
So we can get Benny back on.
Oh, can we get Benny? Benny, you actually have a question.
So,
go ahead.
Who is it? Barry is asking, how did the Phillies tank?
Well, all of a sudden we go from hockey
that's
to
a good
baseball.
Question.
We can address that. No, we're going to address that when we come back.
My pocketbook is trying to figure out that answer also.
Let's address that when we come back about that question. Thanks, Barry, for that question. We'll talk about that. We want to thank Andrew Dunn, Sports Senate Podcast. Andrew, thanks so much for being here talking NHL. I think you're going to be our resident NHL guy moving forward. So, again, I appreciate it. Hope you had a great time on the show. And we look forward to talking to you down the line. So thank you so much. We'll be right back with Benny the Book, his picks on college and pro, and also answering that question about the Phillies after these messages.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. Six Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Again, want to thank Andrew Dunn for coming on and talking NHL with us. knows a lot more about hockey than me or a lot of people I know. So hopefully we can get Andrew back a few more times this year, and we'll get him back during the midseason break, the All-Star game, and obviously for the playoffs. So if you can check out his Sports Edit podcast, that'd be great. It's a great, great show. Let's bring on Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, one more time to do his little spot here. Benny, before we get the picks, let's answer that question by Barry. Is what in the world happened to the Phillies? Their bats went ice cold.
Yes, absolutely. They were smashing the ball all over the place, and they just their pitching pitched very well. I mean, they didn't give up a lot of runs. They just couldn't score the way they were scoring. They were just smashing everybody, and that's what happens sometimes. And it's hard to believe because the Diamondbacks don't exactly have like the greatest pitching staff,
right?
And that's how sports are. So look at both. Look at the other series.
The
home team did not win one game.
I know.
The visiting team won. They go up 2-0 Texas, going home, and they lose 3 games in a row. And then they come back and beat
with the Astros, right?
Yep. So
just
I mean,
crazy.
it's sports is really that's why my best advice is if you don't have to bet on sports, don't.
That's why I don't bet, because I have somebody on the other side of me that tells me not to bet on sports because I can't afford it.
In the last two weeks, there's been a big thing about umpires, referees, calls. You win some, you lose some, but I lost one game this week that the kid might have made the greatest play of the week in the Iowa game, the punt return.
No, that's right. Yeah. Fair catch.
They flashed. I was looking on my phone and they showed that they won the game, and I covered. And then the next thing I know is it was taken off, and I saw the call, and the Iowa coach even said it. Farrens, he says, before the game, the referees tell you that if you're calling a fair catch, you have to raise your hand above your shoulder.
Right.
That kid did nothing. He was waving to his guys, get away.
Agreed.
His hands were down by his side.
Agreed.
And everybody on TV said the same exact thing.
But Benny,
they didn't call that till afterwards.
Agreed. After he scores the touchdown, I know, which made no sense.
There was no flag on the field.
But here's the thing, though. Not only did they lose the game, but more importantly, it cost you the game.
Right. Yes, I would have won the game. I would have been 2-2, and I almost lost on Sunday the Colt game against Cleveland on the interference call.
That's right.
And they recovered a fumble, and then they called an illegal hit downfield when he fumbled the ball, and the Colts recovered it. Gave him 2 extra plays.
Yeah, the officiating's been kind of spotty this year, and I'd be willing to say, if you didn't know football better, you'd be like, these games are a little bit fixed, maybe, right. But I'm not going to go there. But so let's look at your college picks. But before we do that, there was a really big game this past week. It was the biggest game so far this year, right? It met, in the Big Ten, you had 2 teams playing each other, both undefeated in the top 5. That was Penn State on the road at the Horseshoe at Ohio State. We had our Big Ten guy, Todd Trieger, there, actually, and took some video of that game, actually the only touchdown of the game, I think. And Ohio State beat Penn State 20-10. I'm not sure. We're going to see if we can somehow roll this in, and we can maybe take a look at it. Here we go right here. This is the famous, Benny, this is the famous dotting of the I.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Probably one of the most...
I got to tell you, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I definitely think I've been very impressed with Ohio State's defense. Their offense is not that good, although they have. But you picked them at the beginning of the year, Harrison. He's everything for the Buckeyes on offense. If you can contain him, they won't score.
But he's been hurt, and he really hasn't played a lot. That's Henderson, the running back.
He got hurt. He got hurt in the Notre Dame game, but he came back. He had 12 catches. He had 12 catches in this game.
Well, is this the only touchdown of the game right here that we're seeing here? This is a great shot by Todd here on this. And that was pretty much won it for the Buckeyes, I think, right there. And the Buckeyes ended up winning the game 20-12.
No, the Buckeyes had 2 touchdowns.
Did they have 2?
Because it was 10. It was 10.
I don't know how many field goals they kicked. I didn't know, but that was definitely the first touchdown that was scored in the game. So
kicked 2 field goals.
Our thanks to Todd, our man on the spot, Mr. Big Ten over there. So appreciate that, Todd. So let's get right now to the picks this week. You've got 4 in college, 4 in the pros. And let's pull them up and let's look at game number 1 for Benny the Book.
Okay. Last week I went against this team with my West Virginia Mountaineers, and with 6 minutes to go in the game, it was a tie game, and they scored 24 points in a matter of 6 minutes. The West Virginia just exploded, and it was all over. So now Oklahoma State has a good shot in the Big 12. They started out very poorly. And they got a running back that is very, very good.
What do you have? 289 yards last week?
Yeah. He destroyed West Virginia last year too. The guy is. I was really impressed with him. I hadn't heard about him, and they got a quarterback that's he's very seasoned. This is his second stint in the Big 12. Bowman. So I'm leaning towards Oklahoma State laying the 7.5 against Cincinnati. Cincinnati looks like they're having a really, really bad year. So I think Oklahoma State, off of that big win, going to go home and score some points and cover that spread.
I like that pick. Game number 2. It's the Utah Utes coming off a huge win at USC, knocking the Trojans out of any potential playoff possibilities. I think they're on the road against Oregon, right? And
no. Oregon is out on the road.
Oregon's okay. So Utah's at home, and they're getting 6.5 against the Ducks.
18 in a row they've won at home.
Okay, so you like Utah?
Their defense is going to keep them in the game.
Okay,
I'll take the 6.5. I'll take a team that won 18 in a row at home. They were my pick to win the Pac-12. They win this game, they're right there.
I like the pick too. I think Utah wins that game outright. Now, this is the world's largest cocktail party. It's the Florida Gators and the Georgia Bulldogs, neutral field in Jacksonville. Boy, that's a lot of points. Georgia's not.
I like Florida with 14. No Brock Bowers.
No Brock Bowers. Your boy's out of there, right?
Big loss. Big loss. They that quarterback, when he has to go to somebody and they got to do something, they go to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers always seems to make the big plays for their offense.
And Graham Mertz has played better at quarterback for the Gators lately.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they did. I think they had a big running game also a couple games ago where they rushed for 250 yards, 280 yards on the ground. I don't know if they'll be able to run against Georgia, but Brock Bowers being out, that's a big thing. That's 2.5, 2 touchdowns plus. I like Florida.
I like Georgia to win the game, but I like maybe 7 to 10 points. That's what I think. It'd be closer. It's a rivalry game, Benny, right?
Yep.
And those are always closer. And then you've got the Kansas Jayhawks. You're getting 9.5 against the Sooners, who barely squeaked by Central Florida last week, 31-29. Jayhawks can score some points there. Now, they can put up points, and you like Kansas.
I like Kansas plus the 9.5. My home team underdog. Oklahoma, terrific quarterback. I mean, the guy is really good. Their defense has played much better. I think that's the difference between their team from last year to this year. The defense is they brought in a couple, transfers, and they're playing much better. I kind of thought UCF should have won that game last week. I mean, they were playing at home. They weren't looking forward to anything. It was they got Kansas the next week. It's not like they're looking forward to a big game.
Right.
So I'm going to take Kansas plus the 9.5 points.
All right. And just to finish off college football, people can see here, you got the James Madison, the Dukes here, undefeated, now in the top 25. And Benny, here's a fact for you. They can go 12-0, win their conference, and they don't get to go anywhere because they're moving up a division, which makes no sense to me at all. I can see moving down a division, but they're going up a division and they literally are shut out of any bowl opportunities. Makes no sense to me.
That'd be a good question to ask somebody in the NCAA why that is. I mean, it does. You're right. It doesn't make sense. They're moving up. It's not like they're
I
moving
know
down.
it's crazy. That's the NCAA. Well, let's go. We got a quick. We got to move this thing moving here. So let's go to the NFL and let's look at your 4 games. Number 1,
right.
You got Dallas and the Rams.
Dallas laying the 6.5. I picked this early in the week. I looked at the schedule. They have the Eagles next week, so I'm hoping that Dallas doesn't look ahead and take this team lightly. The Rams have been scoring points, but I don't see him beating the Cowboys. So it's less than a touchdown. It's a little weary. I mean, who knows in the NFL?
Right.
I mean, it's like ridiculous.
But
I mean,
like
New England beats Buffalo.
I know that.
Come on, it's ridiculous.
I like Prescott to throw for some yards against the Rams.
Yeah.
Next up, you got. You talked about the Pats. They're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. Dolphins coming off a beatdown at the hands of the Eagles, 31-17. Right. You like them blowing the Pats out, right?
Yes, but they have Kansas City the following week, so I'm hoping. I'm just thinking New England can't. They got nobody. They got nobody on defense. Yeah, he had one good game last week. We got to go with Miami laying the 9.5. They got to be a little pissed off.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to play angry. You get the Bengals playing against the Niners. Now, you had said earlier that Brock Purdy not playing in this game.
Yes,
for San Francisco. Huge loss right there.
90% sure that he's not going to play. Okay. He went into the concussion protocol today. Cincinnati's been playing much better, plus 5.5. San Francisco's in a little slide. I just hope I hope the offense doesn't turn the ball over. Cincinnati's offense doesn't turn the ball over to that defense. But they didn't look so dominant last week.
No, they did not. They did not play up to their capabilities. But that's for sure.
It's that 5.5 line plus 5.5. Remember I told you about the 5.5 theory. So I'll take Cincinnati plus the 5.5.
All right, Cincinnati 5.5. In the last game in the pros, you got the Detroit Lions getting absolutely blasted last week at Baltimore. Yeah. Let Lamar Jackson throw for almost 400 yards.
I'm looking for a really big bounce back from Detroit, laying 8 points. The Raiders are not a good team.
Garoppolo hurt again. What a shocker.
Yeah, they're in disarray. I think Detroit is good. It just. Yeah. It's one of those things that happened last week. I mean, he played a perfect game, the Raven quarterback, and I think they're going to bounce back. So I like Detroit minus the 8.
I like the Lions minus the 8. Okay, well, Benny's got those picks. So he likes Dallas, the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Lions in the pros. And in college, Oklahoma State, Utah, Florida to cover against Georgia, and Kansas against Oklahoma. Benny, it's great to see you back again.
There's one other game in pros that's big. The number 1 pick and the number 2 pick from the last year's draft, Carolina Panthers, going against the Houston Texans.
Oh, it's so it'd be that's right. You've got Bryce Young against Stroud, correct?
Right, and if Stroud's
Stroud's
doing very well, if Houston wins, Carolina's going to look. They're going to have to look at their general manager and say, "What the hell?"
0-4, that's for sure. So, well, Ben, we're glad to have you back. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Let's hope you go 8-0.
Good luck.
We will be back to talk about the wrap, and we're going to talk about the best sports movies and who's moving on to the second round with that, and obviously talk about our guests for next week's show. So we'll do that right after this.
Jim's Pawn and Guns Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I want to thank again our guest tonight, Andrew Dunn, Sports Center Podcast, for talking some NHL with us. Thank you, Andrew. We hope to have you back again soon. And obviously, every week, we've got Benny the Book, the King of Carolina, best of luck to Benny this week. Let's go 4-0 in college and 4-0 in the pros. Last week we had an amazing show about greatest sports movies, best sports movies. I want to thank everybody who took the time to vote. Let us know who should be moving on to the second round. We had 4 regions. We had football, baseball, basketball, and other. And Tony, our crack graphics man and producer, is going to put these up. So real quick, remember the Titans. And we are Marshall. Move on to the next round. I know it's 1 versus 2, but they're going to meet eventually. So we got Brian's Song. That was an easy one over All the Right Moves. My favorite movie is going up against the original, The Longest Yard. And then we've got Friday Night Lights, which was a little bit of an upset, even though we're ranked higher than Rudy. Friday Night Lights against The Blind Side. So again, we're going to leave up a graphic here in the comments section for everybody. You can click on that link, and that will give you to a vote. You can actually pick these movies moving forward, or who's going to go on to the semifinal round. So check that out in the comments section. It's going to be in there, and we'll be running a few in shorts in the next week, and we'll keep the voting open until next Wednesday's show. So love you guys to participate and let us know what movie's moving on to the next round. Now let's pull up the baseball movies. Best baseball movies. And that is number 1, obviously, Field of Dreams. I have a weird feeling that thing's going to win the whole thing. And that went up against 42. 42 upset 61 last week. Not an upset, 2 versus 11. But Major League, that was an upset. The Nashville was seeded number 3. Robert Redford, but everyone liked Major League, the comedy, Rick Wild Thing Vaughn, come on, Willie Mays Hayes, gotta love it. That's going up against Bull Durham, that beat my Mr. Baseball. By the way, Joni the Chat Girl and I watched Mr. Baseball last night, and she thought that should have won because she really liked that movie. And third, we've got A League of Their Own, actually beat Bingo Long and the Traveling All-Stars. Probably other than my brother and I, no one watched that movie lately. And that is going up against The Sandlot, which was a tough one against Bad News Bears. So we like A League of Their Own against The Sandlot. So again, click on the link. Let us know who's moving on to the semifinal round in baseball. Now let's throw up basketball real quick and see what we got here. Hoosiers, the number 1, and Coach Carter, both excellent movies. They're both great movies, right? Gene Hackman starring in one movie, Samuel L. Jackson in the other. Then moving on. White Men Can't Jump. I have no idea how that beat 1-on-1, but it did. And that is going up against He Got Game. That's with Denzel Washington and Ray Allen, the former NBA All-Star. And the last one would be Glory Road. And Glory Road beat Like Mike, thank God. Little Bow Wow didn't make it to the next round. Against Blue Chips. And Blue Chips beat Above the Rim. So that's going up against Glory Road. Blue Chips obviously starring Nick Nolte as the coach with cameos, not cameos, but starring roles by Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal. So again, click on the link, let us know there. And then we're going to the other, which is hockey and other sports. And what we got here is Miracle. Everyone seems to think Miracle's going to take this, and it's going to end up Miracle against Field of Dreams. But that is up. That beat Caddyshack. That's going up against Rocky. Of course, Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone. Then we got Cinderella Man pulling a little bit of upset, beating Raging Bull. And that's going up against one of my favorite movies, Slapshot and Paul Newman. And then we've got the Mighty Ducks, which took out Seabiscuit last week. And that's going up against Tin Cup. Invictus, I think a better movie. Tin Cup, maybe a better sports movie. If you golfers out there love Tin Cup, vote for that. So again, thanks, Tony, for bringing those up, those graphics. Again, please check on the link after the show. You'll see it in the comments section. You can click on it. It's set up. You can vote who's moving on to the second round. So again, appreciate everyone's input for this week's show. We'll be back next Wednesday. We're going to talk NBA next week. The NBA came into last night was the first games last night. The Nuggets come through and beat the Lakers by 12 to start defense of their NBA title. And Victor Wembanyama goes tonight for the Spurs. So let's check out the big 7'4" Frenchman and see how he does. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Take care, everyone.